Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Purple Ventures Zoom video podcast. Today, my dear guest is Keat Lee, a CEO, founder of Curfex.com, a fintech startup operating in Southeast Asia, and Keat himself is based in Hong Kong. My name is Jan Staniek and I'm from Purple Ventures. Dear Keat, would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, my name is Wee Keat. I'm one of the co-founders of Curfex. We are a company that is based in Hong Kong as well as in Japan.
Why did you please start the company in 2015?
Actually, quite a lot of reasons for that. I couldn't actually pinpoint one particular reason why we started the company. I guess two reasons came to mind. The first was being a Malaysian, I was based in Hong Kong then. I always faced with complexity of foreign exchange whenever it comes to remitting funds back to my home country. So one thing that I really wanted to do was to be able to get a little bit more clarity, get a little bit more transparent in terms of the funds that I'm sending back home, at least for the banks to be able to tell me how much is the rate is going to be, because I wouldn't know otherwise. Like whenever I go to the bank will usually tell me just send whatever amount that you want to send. The bank over in Malaysia will convert it, and then you will get whatever amount that the bank decided that whatever that rate would be. So that was one of the reasons. The other reason is being in the corporate world for a few years, I was quite tempted to come out and try to be an entrepreneur. I've seen a lot of my friends done it, and then I thought that this would be a good time for me to just take a plunge and just try out something that I've never tried before.
So what was the initial idea that the company will be striving to achieve?
Yes, the initial idea was very different from what we have right now. So when we first started, I think it's how naive we was as well when we first started. We wanted to have a platform where people can come together and exchange currency with one another, sort of creating a marketplace where demand and supply could be met. For example, if I'm in Hong Kong and I need Singapore dollar, I would have a platform where Singaporeans would be able to come to that platform and say that I want Hong Kong dollars, so exchange with me, and we will be able to exchange at the rate that both of us will be agreed on, without the commissions or the fees that need to be paid to the intermediaries such as the bank.
What were the drivers for you to change the business model?
I think I think one thing that helps me a lot was my training as an equity research analyst, where previously I look into different business models. I look at how they evolve, how they adapt to different business cycles, business environment. So when we first started this, we are very cognizant of the fact that we shouldn't be too stagnant, or we shouldn't be too rigid about what we wanted to do. I mean, overall, we have the general direction where what we are trying to achieve. But in terms of getting there, I think we have to be fluid enough in terms of adapting to the different market dynamics. So when we notice that there are changes in market dynamics, such as, for example, when we first started the business, Japan was opening up and they were issuing licenses to the market, basically a non-bank financial institution license. So we saw that Japan was not in our business plan, but we jumped on the bandwagon and we went to the market and applied for a license. And now Japan is actually one of our largest volume drivers for the overall business. Just to show an example of how we remain fluid and just look at the opportunities that's available around us and to just jump on it.
So on what markets do you operate, and how complex was it to get and maintain the local licenses?
We started with Hong Kong. We got our license in Hong Kong back in 2016. We got our license in Japan back in 2018. We also have a license in Australia, which we have not started yet. In terms of maintaining the license, I think the complexity of the license actually comes from the very early on when you're applying for it, because each jurisdiction has its own regulations. We will need to meet not only the local jurisdictions in terms of like how they would want you to, for the lack of better word, behave in the market in terms of your pricing strategy, in terms of your display of information to the customers, in terms of your reporting, compliance, and all these different things. But we also need to be very mindful of the compliance side of things, which sometimes may not fall under the purview of the regulator, but fall under the purview of some other jurisdictions, such as the banks, the local enforcements. Because in the business that we're doing right now, what we realize is that the banks or the local enforcement sometimes need our cooperations in terms of information disclosure, as well as maintaining the integrity of the fund flow. So yeah, I think those would be the complexity in terms of maintaining the licenses, and to show the regulator ultimately we are responsible to all the different stakeholders in the market.
Would you please, Wee Keat, now describe what is it, what you do in Southeast Asia?
Yes, so in Southeast Asia, when it's always our intention to get licenses in Southeast Asia and expand our business there. But Southeast Asia is a very complex market. There are many different countries in there, different currencies, different culture, different languages. I myself come from one of the Southeast Asia country in Malaysia, right? But as a Malaysian going to Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and all these different countries, the culture is different, the work ethics, the way the regulators communicate, the expectations, all of this are very, very different. So we are constantly learning how we are going to penetrate the market. Just to give an example, we've decided to have our support base in Malaysia. That being, we are able to take advantage of the fact that a lot of our co-founders are Malaysian to begin with. So with the connections and the understanding of the market that we have, we're able to recruit talents that's necessary to support our operation in North Asia. But ultimately, what we hope to achieve is to get the licenses that we need in Asia to operate. Right now, we are basically working very closely with some of the existing market players in Southeast Asia, such as Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam to a certain extent, to basically put a foot in, so to speak. But ultimately, we are trying to understand the regulator in terms of what are the processes needed and what are the track record that we need to show to be able to finally secure a license for ourselves to be able to operate the market on our own.
But now, if you would be to explain to your grandma what you do for the customers, how would you explain it?
My grandma is very savvy when it comes to money. So it will be a very simple explanation. It will be like, hey, your grandson is trying to send money to you in Malaysia, but I have problems sending money to you because I have no idea how much money I need to send to you in Hong Kong dollar. Immediately, she would understand that, because I think my grandma is actually quite savvy when it comes to financial matters, especially when it comes to money.
Why would the customers in North Asia or Southeast Asia need your service, and who are your customers?
So our customers are predominantly individuals, and they mostly use us because we're able to offer them an exchange rate that is a lot better than the bank, especially when it comes to dealing with Southeast Asia currencies. So currencies are divided into three forms. You have your major currencies, minor currencies, exotic countries. A lot of the Southeast Asia currencies, like your ringgit, your Indonesian rupiah, your Thailand, and your Vietnamese dong, a lot of these are considered as exotic currencies. So when you look at the exchange rate that the banks offer you, or some of the money exchange brick and mortar, you don't actually get a good spread out of it. So often or not, you're paying a huge amount of spread just to get the currencies that you want for whatever reasons, whether you're traveling, whether you're buying things online, or even like sending funds back home. So what we offer our customers is to be able to do that conversion at a much affordable rate than what the banks are giving to you. And in return, you're able to maximize the funds that you are sending back home, maximize the dollar that you have in your pocket, just putting basically more savings into our customers' pocket.
Over the 6 years since you are in business, how did the market, the financial market, the cross-border payments, the foreign exchange market or fintech market evolved in Southeast Asia?
I think what we have observed over the last 6 years is that the industry has changed so much. When we first started, a lot of the people or even the banks, they wouldn't really understand what we are doing. They would often see us as just another money exchange counter that you typically get in your high street and all these different things. They don't really understand the values or the benefits we're bringing as a digital payment company, where we are helping not only individuals but also businesses with their international payments, with their international transfers. So that was our struggle in the beginning. As of right now, so many of these countries, Southeast Asia in particular, are talking about digital banks, neobanks, everything to be done digitally. I think granted that the pandemic helped a lot to push the wave of digitalization, but from the regulators and the banks not knowing what we're doing to what it is right now, where they are trying to encourage new technology push, new eKYC method, and all these different things, even coming up with the different standards for all this digital framework, it has been amazing. I think the industry has evolved really, really fast. And us as one of the players in the market, we have been trying to keep up pace with how the market is evolving.
Well, back, in 2015, where did you envision Curfex to be in 6 years?
I think when we first started, obviously there are the blue sky scenario, and we have what we have called the base case scenario. I mean, we always thought that we would be able to realize the vision that what we have, something really simple, build a platform, people are able to come to the platform, exchange whatever currencies that they need, and we just make a fee in the middle, right? But then as we go about it, we realize that the complexity of the industry, the regulation that is that there is required, the banking corporations that you need, a lot of this comes into play. And it's no longer as easy as just building a platform and get people to come on it and exchange currency with one another. So I guess to answer your question, again, I think 6 years ago, I would think that it would be just a simple platform, like an e-commerce platform, but mainly for currencies. But where it is right now is so different. The business has evolved, I think, in a good way to where it is right now, that we are much more cognizant of the fact that we need to be accountable to all these different stakeholders, regulators, the banks, have proper compliance, KYC in check, transactional monitoring, all these different things, that it no longer is a simple platform where everyone can just come. It's now even better, because what we're creating right now is a system or a platform where we are scrutinizing our customers to make sure that quality customers are exchanging with one another, that are quality individuals and businesses that we are onboarding for the banks to help them with their international payments.
If we move to the people side of your startup, of your business, how did you met with your co-founders, and could you explain how you run the company, because you have unique structure across the Southeast Asia?
So we have in total, I would say the active co-founders, there are 4 of us. So 4 of us met in university. So we are university friends. We were in the same course. And after graduated, we kind of went our own ways into different areas. I myself went to finance. A few others went into different areas such as tech, constructions, or even operational specifically. And what happened was, when this idea came about, we got together, we kind of brainstormed about it, and we figured that this is something that 4 of us are actually interested to do, hence how Curfex started. And in terms of the dynamics of the working relationship, it's actually really, really unique. Like what Yan has mentioned, is because the 4 of us are based in different countries. I myself was based in Hong Kong back then. We have another co-founder, he's based in Malaysia, and another 2 co-founders that are based in Australia. So at the very get-go, we are not even in the same country. So of course, what we have to pay attention then would be the communication aspect of things, because we have to learn how to be able to communicate and work together, even though that we are not physically together. So from the very early on, our DNA has always been remote working, but still maintain that that communication together that allows us to work together, as well as do frequent trips where we are able to meet together just to put in ideas, just to be able to see each other and just to be able to brainstorm together on how the direction of the company should be. So I guess with that mindset, we have always set that as a culture of the company, where even when right now, as the team expanded, a lot of the people that we hire need not be confined towards a certain geographical area or need not be confined towards the office, because we sort of appreciate talent more than the rigidity of following protocols like going to the office and all these different things. So as a result, we are able to recruit, or we are able to search talents that add values to the company.
You have highly distributed, physically distributed team, right? Most of your people are in Malaysia. You are based in Hong Kong. You have important operations in Japan, and you have co-founders in Australia. How complex it actually is to run a company like that?
I think it's definitely quite complex, because when we first started, when it was just the five of us, I think things were a lot simpler. Even when we are based in different countries, we're able to get the communication across. We are able to meet up together a little bit more frequently. It just didn't feel like we are working remotely at all. But now, as the company expanded, we have about 30 people right now. I think communication is something that is a struggle for us in terms of getting the message through, particularly because as the team expanded, you have more people to communicate. Certain people may not be getting the information rightly as another person. And I think that happens a lot when it comes to remote communication. And on top of that, with the pandemic that's going on right now and people are restricted in terms of traveling, we couldn't meet up to even do our usual annual gathering where we try to brainstorm on different ideas, strategies, team building, and whatnot. So I think that definitely compounded the communication concern that we have. But having said that, I would say that because our DNA when we first started was remote working, so a lot of us are accustomed to it. A lot of us know that proactive measures are needed to address this communication gap. So a lot of us are actually putting a lot of efforts in terms of addressing this issue right now. Yes, we do see the issue being present, but having the experience of going through this for the last 6 years now, we are coming up with more innovative measure to address that communication gap with the rest of the team.
On the positive note, what were the most joyful moments or feelings so far for you as a founder of the company over the past 6 years?
I think there are a few milestones, or there are a few moments that I would say was really, really a good one. I think the first one was when the co-founders came together and decided to start this. Like I mentioned earlier, we are all friends from university, so being able to do something with your friends is a great feeling, I would say. I think the second example would be when we first secure our first client, our first major client that's actually bringing cash flow into the company. That again was a remarkable feeling because starting as an entrepreneur for the first time, we don't really know how to go out and secure these clients. So being able to do that for the first time, that was a remarkable feeling as well. And I think recently, I will also say that just looking back when we first started, there was only 5 of us to now where there are 30 people. And when early part of this year, when we got everyone together digitally to just do a virtual team building, I thought that was a very good experience as well, where everyone is able to see each other, and us as a co-founders looking at what we have done over the last 6 years to be able to bring values to our customers, to be able to say to our staff, our employees that we are putting you guys first ahead of everything. I think that itself is also a very good feeling and definitely bring us joy.
And the most challenging moments over those past 6 years?
Again, there are different moments I can remember that were really challenging for us. I think one that we can think of was when we got our licenses, but then we couldn't establish banking relationships because, like I said, the bank don't really know what we're doing. The banks don't really know who we are. So the banks were basically saying that, why should we establish a relationship with you? So that was one of the earliest and the biggest challenge, or even I would say to present, there is still a banking relationship challenge that I see from time to time. Apart from that, I would also say that not knowing whether the cash flow that we are generating is enough to cover the expenses when we first started the company. So like I mentioned earlier, it was a very joyous moment for us when we first secured our first customer. Prior to that, it was a very scary moment for us because we don't really know when we're going to get our first customers. And if our first customer doesn't come in, we are burning cash every single month. So we don't really know how the company or the startup is going to survive that. So I would say that there are definitely a few big scares or challenges along the way, but at the top of my head, those two were the most memorable ones, I would say.
Wee Keat, what have you learned about yourself over those years?
I think what I've learned about myself is that I always see myself as an introvert. What I did learn over the last 6 years is that I can be an extrovert if I wanted to. I'm able to approach people, I'm able to do marketing, I'm able to go on stage to speak, to do all these things that I didn't know it's possible for me, because my comfort zone has always been behind a computer, crunching numbers, writing business strategies, and not on the communication part. So I think for me, that was an eye-opener to see that I'm able to do something that I thought I wouldn't be able to do as an introvert.
How did you finance the company so far?
I think we're quite blessed. From the very get-go, when the co-founders got together, we managed to secure a convertible loan. So we managed to put in a $2 million convertible loan into the company that helps us get started in terms of applying for licenses, getting business partners, talking to different people. So that put us at ease compared to a lot of, I understand, bootstrap company that has to strive to raise fund from the very beginning. So we were quite blessed from the start. And later on, as the business comes in, we were again very blessed to receive invitation from one of our clients to express their interest to invest into us. So we were able to secure the deal, close the deal, where one of our strategic clients invested into us, and that allows us to further expand our operation, leveraging on the funds that we receive to basically scale up our operations, bringing more cash flow, and to be able to sustain ourselves from there onwards. So right now, again, having gone through these two experiences, we know for a fact that we have to be quite prudent in terms of how we manage our cash flow. So I'm pleased to say that as a company, we are cash flow positive since the beginning of this year, and we have always maintained that position, of we have always ensured that that is the position that we want to take going forward as well. So we're quite mindful in terms of the expenses that we incur. We're quite mindful in terms of how we actually manage our fund, because first and foremost, we want to make sure that we are a going concern company, and we are not a company that is all out trying to chase revenue, chase market share, because I think fundamentally as a company, we want that stability that we can offer to our employees, which by extension will then give them the security that they need to better serve our customers.
Did the pandemic, COVID, change your approach, how you run the company, and how you basically, what risk measures do you take?
Definitely. I think the pandemic has actually put into perspective two things for me. The first thing is regards to finance. When at the onset of the pandemic, we didn't really know how long the pandemic is going to last. So the most important question for us is that, are we going to be able to maintain the existing customers that we have right now? Are we able to get new projects in, onboard new customers, and to continue to grow the volume? So with that two questions in mind, we are very mindful in terms of how we invest or how we market ourselves or how we spend that marketing dollar, just to make sure that we have that visibility in terms of the cash flow positive that I was talking about earlier. So that was the mindset that we have at the onset of the pandemic, which was very different from before the pandemic, because we are very confident that we are able to onboard the customers. We have a pipeline of people that we're talking about. It's just a matter of flying to those countries, close the deals, and onboard those customers. So the pandemic kind of changed all that, because we realized that we are not able to front face the customers anymore, that we are not able to push or to expedite all of these projects. So we took a step back in terms of how we're gonna be aggressively increasing our headcounts, or push those marketing dollars to actually expand our business. I think the second thing that changed because of the pandemic was communication. Like I mentioned before, we used to get people together. Co-founders, you get together twice every year. The whole company gets together once every year, just to be able to do that team building, to be able to meet with one another, to be able to know who you're working with, who are your colleagues, and to be able to share feedbacks and comments with one another. And from our experience, those are very valuable sessions that we had, because we instantly see morale getting boost, we instantly see motivations increase after the session. Now, the pandemic changed all that, because we aren't able to do any of those things. The only thing that we're able to do right now is to basically get everyone on board digitally and try to do a digital team building. So that led to a few concerns. For one is that there is this lockdown burnout that I see with some people, because they have been working from home for months and not meeting with any people. Or there might be communication concern, because like I said earlier, with the lack of physical interaction, some message get lost along the way. So that kind of changed how we think about communication as well as a company. What tools can we use? What creative measures can we do? So for example, as a company right now, we like to do the virtual luncheon, virtual catch up, virtual everything that is not sometimes not work, just to be able to see how everyone is doing, just to have a catch-up session, simple 30 minutes catch-up session with one another, to see what's going on with everybody's life. Because we believe as a company, first and foremost, we need to take care of the employees, because a motivated employee is an employee who felt that his or her well-being is being considered or taken care of, has the motivation to push a lot harder, or to work a lot better for the company as a whole. Those two things I would say would be the challenges or things that have changed since the pandemic began.
Mm-hmm. What qualities do you look at when you are choosing new colleagues?
That's a very good question, Yan. We always fine-tune our interview or selection process. So usually when we hire someone in, the person or the candidate will usually go through 2 interviews. The first interview would be regards to the skill sets, the know-how, whether he or she would be able to undertake the responsibilities or to do the jobs that we need him or her to do. But the second thing, which I think is rather more important, is with regards to the character of the individual, the culture of the individual, because we believe that as a company, we have to believe in the same culture. We believe that everyone should be fair and everyone should be transparent with one another. So with that, during the second interview, a lot of times conducted by myself, I will try to get a sense of the candidate's character in terms of adaptability to our culture, in terms of who they are as a person. So we try to do a lot of casual conversation, just so that I myself would be able to get a sense of how the candidate is as an individual, and whether he or she will be able to integrate well with the overall team.
Back to the business, where would you envision Curfex to be in 2 years from now?
I'm a little bit hesitant to answer this question, because it really depends on where we are in the midst of all this pandemic that we are seeing at the moment. But optimistically, I would say this: with the way things are moving in Asia, I do see things getting better, travel restriction being lifted. So that would allow, to a certain extent, business travel to continue, and which would help us to reestablish or to build upon new relationships with our different stakeholders as well as business partners. So as a company as a whole, we do see that 2 years from now, we would have expanded into the countries that we previously talked about, mainly some of the Southeast Asia countries. We would have established ourselves in Australia, and just to firmly let the Asia Pacific know that Curfex is a brand name that they can trust when it comes to international payments and international transfer.
Now, what do you need yourself to do as a leader, as a CEO, and the team to be ready for the growth of the company?
I think it requires a lot of humility on my side to be able to know that not only am I being called to lead the team, but I'm also being called to carry everyone together with me. Because a lot of times, I think in the leadership role, one would often forget that a lot of the comments that comes from grassroots, a lot of comments that come from different people helps in terms of molding and shaping the company. Because ultimately, if a company is for the employees, I believe that everyone's comments, everyone's consideration should have a place. So as a leader, I think what really drives me is to be able to take in all these different comments and feedbacks from everyone that is in the company and try to incorporate it to try to create a more holistic environment, I would say, for employees to prosper and for employees to be able to do well in their roles and to help the company grow along the way. Because I believe that as a startup, it's imperative that we offer each and every one of our employees the room for them to grow. We do not want to be a company where we will stifle growth of an individual or overlook the potential that one individual may have. So we try to encourage everyone to express themselves a little bit more so that we're able to take this concern. So even, for example, in the company, when we talk about performance review, we actually look at the contribution one made to the company, be it in their own duties or outside of their own duties, because we really believe that a company is not built by just a single person, but it's built collectively by the entire employees or even the different stakeholders. So we really want a company that is built by all these people. So as a leader, I would say that taking into consideration all these comments and having that sense of humility to accept constructive feedbacks would be critical in terms of driving the company forward.
On a personal front, it's a few months ago when you became a father. How did that change your worldview?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think being a father itself changed a lot of things. I think for one, when the baby first came, there was a lot of disruption in terms of the work schedule. So we are all working from home right now, myself included. So I'm more aware to the crying, I'm more aware to the feeding and all these different things. So I would have to adapt to the baby schedule and not compromise on the work arrangements, I would say. So one example that I could give is that for me, work has become, or rather, I wouldn't say work as work, because as a co-founder, your company is kind of like part of your life, something that you enjoy doing, something that you know that you wake up and are motivated to tackle it, to approach it. So I see the work that I'm doing as part of myself, as part of me. There isn't really a fixed work schedule right now for me, because I want to be making sure that not only am I completing the task that I'm setting out myself to do, but I'm also supporting each and every one of my staff, colleagues, co-founders, to ensure that they are able to do the things that they need to do as well. So at the very least, being a father, I'm not I'm not holding the company back because attention is being split now across different areas. I would try to make the necessary arrangement to ensure that that's a good balance between being a good father, being a good leader, and overall just being a good co-founder to my fellow co-founders.
Having like super demanding role as a CEO, as a father, do you have time to rest?
Again, a very good question. I don't know. Like I would say that I'm resting sufficiently because not tired. I think it's important that, at least for myself, I do exercise, or I do try to exercise a little bit, because that gives you the energy booster that you need to get through the day, be it working or be it taking care of my son. So I think that like I said, everything comes to a good balance in life, whether you're resting, whether you're working, whether you're playing. I think for myself, or speaking for myself, at this current moment, there's a good equilibrium in all these different areas. So yes, I do think that I am resting enough.
When it comes to role of investors in Curfex life, you mentioned 2 milestones. Worked well, and what would you do better next time?
To be honest, I think we are very blessed to have that 2 milestones where we didn't really experience any difficulties or any, I would say, bad experience coming from the 2 fundings. So again, I wouldn't be able to share a lot in terms about what are the bad experience that I've experienced, and how do I go about circumventing it in the future. But what I will be able to share is that, given the good experience that I've had, these are the things I actually look out for. So one aspect of it is basically that you want to be able to receive funding from the people who trust your business, and the people who knows that what you're doing, and the overall culture of the company. Because I do know from my previous job that there are different nature of investors. There are also strategic investors, and there are also financial investors. Well, financial investors, like what the name implies, mostly concerns themselves with the return of the investments. So there are pros and cons to that. And one of the cons that I've always heard from others who's been sharing to me is that they would exert a lot of pressure in terms of how business should be conducted, or how business should be run. And it really depends on whether that's for the good or for the bad, right? It could be for the efficiency of the business. It could be for the good value of the business. But ultimately, as a co-founder, I would say that the company is started based on a few values, and if those values are not the same values that the investor believes in, that would cause disruption, or that would cause concern to the overall culture of the company. So as a co-founder, what I always look at is to ensure that, at the very least, the investors that we look at believes in our values, and to be able to support us, to know that these are what we believe in, and this is what we are striving to do, and to be able to support us on that front. I think that would be more important than talking about the valuations that you would get, and all these different financial metrics.
Wee Keat, since you mentioned culture and values several times, would you please try to distill what are those for Curfex?
As a company, we believe in 2 things: being fair and being transparent. The whole reason the company started was because that we believe the financial institution is not an equal playing ground for everyone. Like, even if you look at the current financial institutions right now, for a banking relationship, there are different tiers of banking relationships. And of the different tiers, there are different fees, different rates, different investment opportunities, and all these different things. So from the beginning, it's not a level playing ground. So we believe that as a company, we want to be fair to everyone. It doesn't really matter who you are, where you're from. At the very least, we get you at the same starting line. Another thing that we believe in is the transparency of the company. So we want to make things as transparent as possible. We don't want to hide things behind rates. We don't want to hide things behind fees and all these different things. Because as a financial company, one of the things I realized is that not a lot of people understand all these different financial jargons. Things may be very complicated. Who really understands like all these rate determinations and all these different things? So as a company, we want to be as transparent as possible to our clients, to our stakeholders, to let them know this is exactly what you're seeing is what you're getting. There are no hidden things around it. We're not trying to create a beautiful picture, but with hidden meanings or underlying tones and all these different things. We just want to be as transparent as possible to let you know this is what you're getting. So we kind of adopt that into our operation as well in terms of how we conduct the business. For example, when I approach my business partner and we are negotiating for a collaborations or even for a partnership, I will be very transparent that there is not going to be a high point, there's not going to be a low point. What I'm offering you right now is as good as it gets, because we believe that this is fair to us as a company and this is fair to you as a partner as well too. We don't really want to go through the negotiation of pulling the price up, pulling the price down, because we feel that that is not really sincere. As a company, we believe that we should approach it with the most with the fairest pricings or with the fairest disclosure of information that one could give, and to be able to offer that to people and to establish a reputation as a company to so that people would know that, hey, when I'm dealing with Curfex, I know that they're going to be fair to me and they know that they're going to be transparent to me. That's kind of ultimately what we strive to achieve.
Since you are experiencing a beautiful year-on-year growth and you're cash positive, at the same time, the challenge is that you need more and more working capital. Would you actually consider onboarding new investors, and what would you be looking at when considering that?
So I would say the decision itself, I try to make it together with my fellow co-founders. As a financial analyst by training, I know the different approach that I can take. I know the measures or alternatives that I can go around with fundraising. I know what's available in the market, so to speak. But ultimately, depending on which options that we take, there are pros and cons to each. So as a company, what I strive to do is to be able to have that consensus with my co-founders to know that this is the working capital that we need. We may require to raise funds to actually support the business growth, and what are the considerations that comes from raising fund of the following options. So I would say that in a short answer, yes, we will be raising fund. How would we be raising that fund? It's rather unclear at the moment because we're still trying to figure that out within the co-founders or within the management of the company. But ultimately, if we feel comfortable enough, again, like I said, with the investors that we're talking to that understands our culture, that supports the business, that know who we are as a company, as what we believe in, then yes, we'll be more comfortable to go down that fundraising route.
We get to conclude, knowing what it's like to start a company, would you do it again? And what a message would you give to those who consider starting a company?
Yes, I would say to conclude, I would thank Yan for giving me an opportunity to share my experience here. I guess as an entrepreneur of 6 years, I would say that, yeah, I'll definitely do this again if I'm given the opportunity. And as a message that I will share with people out there, I would say that try not to over-prepare. I believe that to start a business, while it's challenging, it's really not that difficult. Just go into it, learn along the way, get ready to face the challenges, have people around you that are able to support you, that are able to walk through with you during good times and bad times, and ultimately just enjoy the process. I do believe that one can't be prepared enough to face the different challenges and concerns that may come from starting a business. One can't predict enough what may come down the line. No one see the pandemic coming, but we have been sitting here over the last 2 years now with the pandemic going on around us. So I would say that in anything that you want to do, I think most importantly is you would have that dedication, you would have that conviction that this is what you want, and you would be able to go through the high and the lows together with the people that you trust or people that surround you.
Wee Keat, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jan, for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for watching or listening to another episode of Purple Ventures Zoom. If you like the subject of venture capital investing, please subscribe and go ahead and check our website.